Hi everyone, this is Brian Hayes. Today we're just going to speak briefly about expanding your range on the flute. Now by range, we refer to how low and how high you can play on an instrument. The flute has a fixed low range. The length of the pipe dictates the lowest possible note on the flute. Now this flute I have has what they call a low B foot. This key down here is B below middle C on a piano on the treble clef stave. This key here is the low C key. Now just about all flutes except the piccolo flute go down to low C, which is written like middle C for the piano in the treble clef. This note. Now that's as low as we can play on the standard concert flute, albeit acknowledging that many concert flutes, the professional series flutes, go one note lower down to low B. Our high range, however, is not as restricted, but many people when they first try to play a wind instrument really struggle with the high notes, and the flute's no exception. The flute is a fantastic instrument because it will not accept brute force as a means of trying to play higher. We can't blast our way into the high range on the flute. Now today I just want to introduce a simple concept called tongue level playing, or the Overtone series, as a great way to just make sure that everything in your embouchure is working efficiently. Creating range on the flute requires accurate use of our tongue. In the same way when we whistle, if you look at my lips there, there's next to no change in the hole, the opening, the gap in my lips, but there's some very obvious pitch changes occurring in the whistle. In the whistle, the tongue is creating the pitch change. I'm blowing the same amount of air. I'm not trying to blow harder for the high notes. I'm just raising and lowering my tongue when I want the pitch to change. The tongue plays an incredibly important role in pitch change on the flute. Many of the fingerings on the flute are the same, in the same way as on a trumpet. Many of the fingerings on the flute are the same, yet we have to play octaves. For example, that's the way we finger low E on the flute. But to play E in the fourth space of the treble clef stave, well, guess what? The fingering's exactly the same. So this is where the tongue level comes into play, just the same as when I whistled. No change in fingering, but a definite octave change in pitch. Now in the lower range on the flute, it's relatively easy to shoot up that octave, but it gets much harder when we get up around above the stave. So from G up to high C for many beginning flute players is a real mystery, and it takes quite a while until you can develop that finesse to hit those notes effortlessly. So today I just want you to explore fingering low C, but trying to play the same as you whistle, hold that low C fingering, and initially try to play the octave above it whilst holding the low C fingering, like this. So no change in my fingering, and you normally would never play this note, C, third space C, using the low C fingering. That's not how we play it. The next overtone, the next harmonic in the series on the flute is actually G that sits up on top of the stave. So let's now try the Overtone series, where we'll play low C, third space C, and G just above the stave, all done with our tongue level. Fingering stays the same, mouth essentially stays the same. Notice my fingers didn't change. yet we played the equivalent of these three notes. Each has their own unique fingering when we play using the traditional fingering. Low C fingering, third space C fingering, G above the stave fingering. But we were able to play those three notes using our tongue to force the pitch change. Now finally we can take that harmonic series up to high C, C above the stave in the treble clef, holding the low C fingering. So now we're going to try and play C, third space C, G above the stave, high C above the stave, whilst holding low C. Now that's as far as we'll take the harmonic series today. You can go higher. But what you'll find if you practice in this style of tongue level control, maybe just for 5 minutes a day, when you go back to using the standard fingerings on the flute, those higher notes will literally pop out with ease that you've never experienced before if you've never tried the Overtone series. So playing G, A, B, C down low, and then taking that up an octave, of course using the traditional fingerings, will seem incredibly easy. So experiment with tongue level control. If you have trouble getting that tongue movement to work initially, I recommend you use what brass players call anchor tonguing. Now, I'm not saying you play the flute using anchor tonguing, but if you're having trouble getting the accuracy in the rise and fall of the tongue, just keep the tip of your tongue locked below your bottom teeth. And that way you can then roll your tongue forward to get the rise in the tongue. I normally don't play like that on the flute. I just listen to the sound I want to create and my tongue goes wherever it needs to. But anchor tonguing, where you lock the tip of your tongue behind your bottom teeth, then lets you focus on just rolling your tongue forward to get the rise of the tongue and rolling it backwards. A lot of people find that that helps in the initial stages. Bye for now.